Now that we've seen how to generate a list of all factors of a number, we can move on to introducing the topic of the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of several terms is the largest number which can divide evenly into each of those terms. In other words, where a factor is a number that fits inside another number, a greatest common factor is a number that is the largest number that fits inside several different numbers. So in this example, I've got factors of 12 and factors of 30. And as we saw in the last video, we can generate those lists of factors using a table and thinking of those factors in pairs. Remembering 1 times 12 is 12, 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 4 is 12. Thinking of it in pairs helps us generate those lists really efficiently. But once you have your lists of factors, you can compare them side by side to see what they share in common. What factors show up on both lists at the same time? And in this particular example, I see that both lists share a 1 in common, both lists share a 2 in common, both lists will share a 3 in common, and both lists share a 6 in common. Among all those common factors that they share, the largest number that I'm seeing is 6. And so we would call 6 the greatest common factor, or the GCF, of 12 and 30. To find the GCF of 36 and 75, we'll begin with looking at the factors of 36 and the factors of 75. And I've listed them here for us to save us some time, but you could certainly generate these lists as well by using the table and thinking of those factors in pairs. Looking at these lists side by side, again, I'm seeing some common factors. I see that they both share a 1 and they both share a 3. I see no other factors that show up in both lists. So between those two common factors, the greatest one or the largest one is 3. And so the GCF of 36 and 75 would be 3. That's the largest number that will evenly go into 36 and 75 at the same time. To find the GCF of 54 and 90, I'm going to do the same thing. Let's look at the list of all factors of 54 and the list of all factors of 90. Again, you can generate those lists using a table and thinking of those factors in pairs. Looking at those lists side by side, again, I'm seeing numbers that show up on both lists. I see 1s and 2s. I see 3, 6, 9, and 18. And I see no other numbers that are showing up on both lists other than those 6 numbers. The largest of those common factors is 18, and so we would call that the greatest common factor, or the GCF, of 54 and 90. To find the GCF of 84 and 105, again, I'm looking at the lists of factors of each of these numbers, comparing them side by side, and looking for where the similarities are. So again, I see a common factor of 1, a common factor of 3, I see a common factor of 7, and a common factor of 21. I see no other numbers on these lists that match, and so my greatest common factor is the largest common factor, which here is 21. Again, that means 21 is the largest number that will go into 84 and 105 perfectly. Let's do one more example with some bigger numbers, which have lots of factors in their lists. Again, these lists are something that you can generate using a table and working in pairs with your factors. But boy, this is a big list of factors. I've got lots of different common factors, things that I'm seeing in both lists. Lots and lots of stuff here. So let's see, after fishing through everything, I'm seeing a 1 in both lists. Oh dear. A 2 in both lists, a 3, a 4, a 6, a 9, a 12, 18, and 36. Good thing I had just enough room for all of those. Lots of common factors on this one. The greatest common factor is the largest one that's on the common list, and that's 36 here. So 36 is our greatest common factor, or the GCF of 180 and 324. Again, that means 36 is the largest number that will go into both of the 180 and the 324 at the same time.